My name is Lena, and I work the closing shift at a small roadside dive bar on the outskirts of town. The place sits just off the highway, but there's a back entrance that leads into a quiet neighborhood. It's nothing fancy, just dim lights, well-worn bar stools, and a jukebox that's been playing the same cycle of classic rock for years. Most of our customers are locals, truckers passing through, or the occasional lost tourist looking for a stiff drink. I don't mind it, though. The routine is predictable, the tips are surprisingly decent, and over time I've learned how to handle all types of bar regulars. The chatty ones, the flirts, the loners, and the ones who just want to be left alone. Weekends are a different beast, always hectic, but weekday night shifts, I'm completely alone. No backup, no bar back. Just me, an old cash register and a quiet parking lot under flickering neon. It doesn't usually bother me, until I met him. It was a little after 1 a.m. on a slow Tuesday when he walked in. I noticed him immediately. He looked to be in his late 40s, maybe early 50s, but something about him was off. He was too clean-cut, too well-groomed for this area. Dressed in a black turtleneck under a long black trench coat, he carried himself with an eerie sense of composure. He wasn't flashy, but you could tell. This man had money, the quiet, unsettling kind. He scanned the room before walking toward the bar with quick, purposeful steps. His posture was unnervingly perfect, his presence demanding attention without trying. When I walked over, he barely hesitated before ordering top-shelf whiskey. No questions, no second-guessing. As I poured his drink, he looked at me with a warm, almost familiar smile. "Do you like working here?" he asked. It wasn't a weird question. People ask that all the time, so I answered honestly. "Yeah, I like it." I smiled, making a casual joke about bartending life. I wish I could say I got a bad vibe from him right away, but I didn't. He seemed normal, like the kind of guy who coaches his kid's little league team and buys ice cream for the whole team afterward. Friendly, approachable. But then, things got strange. He asked me if I'd ever thought about doing something bigger. The way he said it felt oddly personal, like he already knew the answer. I shrugged it off, gave him my usual bartender smile, and told him I was happy for now. That answer seemed to disappoint him. He took a slow sip of his drink, staring at me like he was waiting for me to change my mind. Then, out of nowhere, he asked what time I got off. My stomach sank. Up until that moment, he hadn't come across as flirtatious at all. Now, the conversation suddenly felt like every other cheap pickup attempt. I smiled, brushing off the question with a vague answer, then turned away to clean the counter. But he didn't push, he just smiled, like he already knew. Then, he calmly slid a crisp $100 bill onto the bar, drained his glass, and walked out without another word. I didn't know what to make of it. Something about him unsettled me, but I figured it was just another weird late-night encounter. I told myself I'd never see him again. I was wrong. A week later, he came back, but this time, he wasn't alone. There was a woman with him. She caught my attention immediately. I'd never seen her before. She looked mid-30s, stylish but off. Her clothes didn't quite match her age, like someone trying a little too hard to blend in with a younger crowd. As they approached the bar, I noticed how deliberately she moved. Every step, every glance calculated. The moment she sat down, before I could even greet them, she reached out and touched my arm. "You're so pretty," she said, her fingers lingering a second too long. I laughed politely, thanked her, but something about her smile felt forced, staged. The man from before was silent. The woman did all the talking. She asked how long I'd worked here, how old I was, little things that seemed normal, but weren't. She wasn't just making conversation, she was studying me. At one point, she glanced at the man beside her. They didn't speak, but somehow they communicated, like they had already planned something. Then she leaned in and lowered her voice. "I run an exclusive event club, private parties. We always need fun, young people like you." I stared at her. "It's good money," she continued. 10 grand for a weekend." I let out a small, awkward laugh. "Sounds too good to be true." Her smile never wavered. "Oh, it's real. Lots of girls like you do it. Safe, exclusive. You should step outside for a second. There's someone who can explain it better." My blood went cold. "I'm good," I said, my voice firm. Then, as if on cue, a group of customers walked in, laughing and talking loudly. The woman's expression changed in an instant. Without another word, she turned to the man beside her, and they left. I told my boss everything. He promised to keep an eye out. There wasn't much else to do. They hadn't technically done anything illegal. But a few nights later, I saw the car. It was parked across the street, engine off, just sitting there. I tried to ignore it, but the feeling of being watched clung to me like static. As I walked to my car, I kept my head down, gripping my keys tight. When I pulled out of the lot, the car followed. At first, I told myself it was just a coincidence, but every turn I made, it stayed behind me, close enough to keep me in sight, far enough to avoid suspicion. My chest tightened. I took a sudden turn onto a random street. It followed. I forced myself to stay calm, think. Then, without hesitation, I pulled into the parking lot of a police station. The car sped off. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. A week later, I was alone on a slow shift, wiping down the bar, half thinking about closing early, when the door creaked open. It was her. I texted my boss under the bar, keeping my face neutral. She walked toward me, that same unsettling smile on her face. "Thought I'd come check on you," she said softly. My skin crawled. "We're closing," I told her, my voice sharp. She pouted. "Just one old-fashioned?" I hesitated. If I stalled long enough, my boss would arrive. So I turned to make the drink. Then the front door clicked shut. I spun around. She was gone. Through the glass, I saw it. A black van idling outside. Then metal rattling. Someone was trying to get in. My heart slammed against my ribs. I grabbed the heaviest thing I could, a metal shaker, just as headlights flooded the parking lot. My boss. The van sped off. The security footage later confirmed my worst fear. 2 masked figures had been crouching outside, waiting. A third was at the back door, trying to force me out the front. The license plate? Unregistered. I don't work alone anymore. But even now, I wonder what would have happened if I had stepped outside that night.